Like, it's okay to talk shit about your rivals and opposing
it's
parties.
encouraged. It's encouraged
it's
to
encouraged.
like that you are like this person is in like mob bosses, guys who have like killed people and like had giant crime syndicates under them are like small guys. Like they're not all like 6'2", like too nervousness of why is this person so enamored with me or this group so enamored with me quickly. They don't even know me. How can they like me so much? It's like, are they like that?
Hello, you beautiful people. Welcome back to the Long-Term Podcast. I'm your host, Advin Villa. Today, we have one of my best friends. He's a University of Alberta alumni, and he's just really amazing at conversation and getting deep. And yeah, we've been friends for as long as I can remember, and I feel extremely blessed to have him. We discuss politics, comedy, just social dynamics and mindset, just how to focus on what you can control and like the mafia, and it gets real good. So I hope you guys enjoy.
This is good tea.
Yeah, it's matcha, man.
I might have to try this. I always thought matcha.
It's Costco. Comes in like 100 packets.
I've heard of people like really like being horny for matcha, but I've never tried it. I like it.
Yeah, dude. I don't really see the difference with just normal tea and matcha.
Yeah, I mean, it tastes like green tea, but I feel like it tastes like maybe slightly better than regular green tea.
Yeah, it's more expensive, but yeah, dude.
Does it have calories in it?
No,
nice.
0. I don't think any tea has calories.
I don't know. Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, it's good for the skin. I know I had massive acne in high school.
Are we going?
What's that?
Is it going?
It's going.
Oh, I didn't know we started. Okay.
Oh, we started, bro. This is in the natural space.
Okay.
That's how you know it's a good start, though.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know it's
good. Is it good for the skin?
Yes, it's really good for the skin, man.
I've been thinking about starting a skincare routine because sometimes the most I'll do is I'll put just like moisturizing cream on my face before I go to bed or when I wake up or whatever. But
oh, really? You don't have a skin routine right now?
No, I don't. Well, I don't know how to start. Like, what do you do?
I mean, you just search up, like, see what type of skin you are, and then just align that with the products.
Oh,
like
you have to find out your type of skin.
Yeah, like if you're oily, then maybe a moisturizer that makes sure that you have less oil. I'm not
what do you do?
well versed. What do I do? I have this. I use Cetaphil because my skin's a lot more sensitive, and I make sure that I don't have as much chemicals in it, and I use a loofah, which you're not supposed to, because apparently too much exfoliation is terrible for the skin.
What's a loofah again?
It's like those little puff balls that you see, and they're sold in Walmart and
Okay, are they the ones that are like mesh?
What do you mean by mesh?
Like it's like plasticky mesh that you like.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I use one of those.
It physically exfoliates your skin, but apparently you're not supposed to do that.
Oh,
because your skin isn't. It gets rid of all the good bacteria and all the all kind of the useful oils, but it works for me. I mean, I don't think I over exfoliate, but just whatever works for you, man. That's essentially how it is. Just try different products, and it's gonna be hit or miss, right? I'm certainly no expert, but you just gotta keep on trying the different types of moisturizers, and then you find what works for your skin. And then oftentimes, though, like I've heard people say the less is better, but I think your skin's fine. So I don't think, like, if your skin's fine right now,
yeah. I mean, I really don't have too many, other than like the occasional bit of acne. I really don't have too many problems with my skin.
Yeah, then there's no need then. Like, if you're only just complicating things, because dude, they've gotten away thousands of years without any skin routines, right? And people's skin were fine. You know, we just keep that's the thing, right? People add in so many things to their diets and then their routines, and then they think they can't live without it. And it becomes this like discombobulating like thing that they need to do. And if they don't do it, then it throws them all off. you know, and they think that, oh, my skin's gonna be worse, or my body, I'm not gonna feel as well. But come to find out, it's not the end all or be all, you know? Yeah, dude, how's your day?
It's pretty good. Went to the gym, picked you up, got really mad at you for a second because I thought you sent me to into the city for no reason.
Yeah, so Adri picked me up, and I messaged him after he told me he was here. I told him I'm actually not there.
And then he sent me to the wrong address and that he was in Sherwood Park. So I thought I just drove 20 minutes into the city for no reason at all.
Why would you actually think I'm being serious? Like, I'd have to be
you weren't like joking in the text. Like,
I'm not actually at the place where I told you to meet me at. I'm actually 20 minutes away. I'm actually back in Sherwood Park. It's like, what would have been in my mind?
Well, because I don't know your reasoning for having that you like sent me to the wrong place. In my mind, what had happened is that you like there's two separate businesses of the same place, like both different dermatology clinics. Like there's two Vita dermatology clinics, and you went like just clicked the first address that popped up and sent me to the one in the city, but you were actually at like a one in Sherwood Park and didn't realize that you sent the wrong address. That's what I thought happened.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, now that I think about it, okay, that's what makes sense.
I wasn't really mad, but I was just kind of like,
oh, you were pissed.
No, I wasn't. I was only like 20%. Like I was annoyed. Because I thought I was like, okay, well, I just wasted gas and time coming into the city for no reason. But it was funny when you showed up to the car. It made me laugh.
Yeah, but it all worked out though. I mean,
oh, that's good that you did, because I was about to leave. Like I was like, I was about to call you and be like, "What's the address in Sherwood Park?"
So I'm gonna just gotta see the sensitivity, see if it matches. But yeah, man. This is episode 114.
Wow,
it's crazy. It's a lot of talking,
big
bro.
Number. That's a lot of talking. You got a lot of things to say.
Yeah. I've always wondered kind of like what different ideas that I can explore and what kind of like how I can change it all up. But then what I've seen from like Joe Rogan and like a lot of the top podcasters is they just don't stop, man. They just, the curious and the curiosity that they actually engage in when they're talking or when they have an idea, and they actually keep doubling down on it and they keep getting deeper. That's certainly something that a lot of people need to do, because a lot of our conversations are just really superficial a lot of the time, like with just everyday stuff. That's how it is.
Like you and me specifically, or like
no, just
general
like
conversations
the
among
general
people.
Conversation.
Okay,
yeah. But like I find that like the best podcasters, they go deep, man. They go deep and they ask like the different questions from like different angles.
That's definitely like an important skill in podcasting. Maybe the most important skill is not just being like entertaining, but being able to like lead the conversation in a way where the guest is still able to like say what they want to say, but in a more comfortable and natural state, that you are able to kind of like control it without being overbearing, which I think you've definitely gotten better at over the course of 114 episodes. A lot of practice.
Man. It's a lot of patience and a lot of just trial and error to be able to listen to people and absorb their ideas, and even then still be able to build on that. And like, there's different styles. Like a lot of people have a proclivity to focus on one topic, and that's all they talk about for majority of the time. But what I find is there's like different topics within the topics. You know what I mean? Like if we were to talk about kind of the gym, we could talk about the muscle, and we could talk about how that works and kind of the techniques to engage different muscles. And then we could talk about the friends that you make within the gym, and you could talk about kind of the mindset when you don't want to go. But a lot of people will tend to focus more on just one-to-one subject, and then some people will just bounce around, which is like, it's different for every single person, but then one person will steer more to one than the other. Does that make sense?
No, I understand. Yeah. That like there's a general topic such as school or the gym or something. And then it'll have like a bunch of different subtopics. Like you said, like friends you have at the gym. And then like within that subtopic, you could go down to like deeper subtopics about like specific people or how you make friends at the gym, or like just the different ways to approach people in different contexts like that. So I think that it's important for you to like kind of pick a interesting one to go down, like a subtopic of a subtopic or whatever that you both have something to say about. What I was wondering is, because you've had a lot of episodes, what do you do when you aren't interested in what the person is saying?
Oh, yeah.
If you like dislike what they're saying, because I understand you like your guests and stuff, but occasionally I'm sure with our topics, you sometimes don't like what I'm saying or not interested in what I'm saying occasionally. So like, what do you do if you're not interested in what the guest is talking about?
I say you just keep asking questions based on what they're saying, and eventually just that genuine curiosity, it's hard to sharpen, but eventually what they say will become interesting in a matter of time. Sometimes it takes longer, but then after like a couple of questions, it's just like, whoa, like that person thinks like that. And with every single person, you could always find that connection, that focal point where you and that person actually have something in common, or you could use their information to add to your life. Well, rarely do I find people where I just don't like any of what they have to say, because I've kind of trained my mind to just see the good in people rather than the bad. And it's hard because I have a lot of buddies who talk a lot of shit. I talk a lot of shit here and there, but like in my head, I'm like, okay, I need to see the good in this person. I need to be able to prioritize what they have to offer and make sure they're innocent rather than guilty when I first meet them. You know what I mean?
So you're talking about like the other people that talk shit, you need to not let their perception and like preconceived notions affect you about this other person, the third party?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And kind of the topics.
That's a good,
yeah.
Come in with like a clear mind about everyone you meet or first start interacting with, and kind of make your own assumptions and like thoughts about this person that aren't affected by like what other people say.
Yeah. And I'd say, man, rumors can be useful too. I'm like, there is just like useless gossip where you're just complaining about other
gossip.
people. But then there's useful gossip where if there's a person that was told or you've heard they erupt in anger and outbursts, or they talk behind your back, or they don't like this certain joke, that's useful. And you could use that information to actually, when you do encounter them, when you do meet them in that space, then be able to just cater your conversation and the way you present yourself in a way that's gonna be less confrontational, you know what I mean? Like less provoking to them. Because usually the types of people that have rumors about them are the ones that are easily offended, that are quick to judge, that are quick to size you up. So definitely I'd say those types of rumors are useful. But then there's like the useless types of rumors where it's like, oh, this person's just ugly, or this person is weak, or it's like you're just making fun of a person. I don't like that type of rumors. But
why does that even need to be a rumor? You could just like judge if someone's ugly or not.
I guess so.
Like,
you're right.
Like,
It's just
not even, like that's like a purely like sight thing.
But they could be ugly because of their actions, and you could maybe create scenarios which that would be the rumor. You know, I don't know. What are you, man? What do you do when there's people that talk smack and it brings the mood down? Do you
Like about me or about other people?
well, that'd just be disrespectful. It's about you. Have you had it when it's about you? Like to your face?
No, I don't
Yeah.
think anyone has ever really like shit talked me to my face before.
Yeah, me too. Me too, actually. Maybe in like elementary, middle school. But as you progress, it happens less and less.
No, I've never really had beef with anybody. So,
Yeah. Pretty agreeable guy.
but I don't know. I mean, I try to like not engage if people are like bad mouthing somebody else or try and like downplay it, like just like change the topic or something.
Yeah. It just brings the mood down for me, man. Like,
Yeah,
I
it's
just
definitely
don't.
like doesn't really add anything to the conversation.
Yeah, I just can't stand it unless it's like actually useful and it's if there's a reason for it, right? If there's someone that was really disrespectful, then of course venting and talking about why that person did that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely like a fine line, but definitely like a middle area. Obviously, in some cases, it's completely appropriate to like give a negative opinion towards somebody when they're not there if it's a valid thing. Like you said, like this person has wronged you, or this person, even just not necessarily negative, but if it's just like spreading like normal information, like people do, like, oh, this event happened and this person was involved, and because of these reasons or lists led up to that. And I think that's pretty normal.
True.
But you're right. Once it's just like speculative or just like being mean to a person, that's when it really crosses a line.
Yeah. It seems a lot of people have an aversive reaction to that. But one thing that I've learned though, because my one class, it's political psychology, and you can make fun of someone being conservative or being a liberal with minimal consequences. But if you make fun of someone's race or gender or anything else, yeah, that's when you get a lot of backlash. So if it's about their looks, but with politics, people go ham, man. And then that's what they talk about in the article, where you get this massive divide with Democrats and Republicans, with liberals, conservatives. It's because it's constantly being reinforced that it's okay. Like it's okay to talk shit about your rivals.
Oh
in the
yeah,
opposing
it's
parties.
encouraged. It's encouraged.
It's
to,
encouraged
like, that you are like, this person is in opposite. It's so divisive. It's encouraged that this other person is in opposition to you. Like it's not, you were both like Edmontonians or Canadians or Americans first, which is how it should be, because that's what you are, like together in the same like political space. But it's seen as this person is in just like, is not the party I'm choosing or not the candidate I'm choosing. Therefore, they are like in opposition to me and are the enemy, which is just stupid and not how it should be.
Yeah, true. I wonder if we made it like a social norm though to not talk badly about someone in politics. Like, could you imagine if I was calling someone like a libtard, and I actually got consequences for it, like it's really encouraged.
If you said that, you might still get some.
You might still, but like it's not as consequential as compared to if I was called someone like a racial slur, I wonder if that would change, but that's always been the case though.
I mean, yeah, but I don't know. I think it should be, well, it's more optional because your conservative beliefs, like your race isn't going to like change. Like it's just a thing about you, but your political beliefs, most people's like will change somewhat over their lifetime. It's also like just a personal choice too. Like you choose to be that politically side. Sure, you might have like innate inklings if you're more left or more right or something, but it is like a choice. Like if you're a conservative, you choose to be a conservative. If you're a like a liberal, you choose to be a liberal.
Mm-hmm. And I think we talked about it in the past too. Social media does a wonderful job at making both sides think that the other is worse. I think it's called false polarization, where like one side thinks that the other side is super extreme, and then they're uncertain about the things they're saying, and it's social media shows the worst of the worst, right? And then you talked about like when you do the ones with the most views, usually they're the ones that attract the most emotional response.
Oh, well, yeah, that's how when you're looking at political stuff on social media, it's all rage bait.
Yeah.
It's all like there'll be like leftist content creators who show the worst of the worst, like conservativeness, just to get leftist viewers to be angry at conservatives. And the same way around, there'll be conservative content creators who show the worst of the worst, like on the liberal side, and then they get their conservative viewers to get angry and upset about it. And that's why I think social media can be useful in politics, in like basic social like information, like this is happening in the world, this is happening here, this person won the election, there's this natural disaster happening, there's this like war going on. And I think it's good for that surface level, like non-partisan information. But once you start to get into like the partisanness, I think it's really not helpful at all. And I think it just serves to like anger both sides, while garnering like wealth and notoriety for the commentators. Because that's another thing I saw, really interesting perspective, is that even in politics, like the politicians love to do that too, and like make the other side the enemy. But in reality, what is most likely happening is that they're not really that in opposition to each other. Like the left and the right politicians really don't like hate each other like they play it up to on the public stage. Like they don't have those same convictions where they like, if they see them at a bar or at a restaurant or just hanging out there, like chill and will be like friendly with each other.
Yeah. From what I read in the articles I read last night too, is the policies aren't even that different. If you actually look at them, they're not super different, but the politicians make it up to be this grand kind of difference in magnitude.
Yeah.
Right. Because it garners votes and it garners a lot of attention. Because if you don't play it up, then you're going to lose the election.
Yeah. Like a lot of parties that I agree. A lot of parties that present themselves as like being totally separate from each other. If you like actually look at like the political compass or whatever, their policies are very like, they would be on the same side. They would only be like slightly like separate from each other. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not like one is if what they're saying in the news and social media is actually true, man, we would be in a lot of trouble.
Yeah,
but
I like to just separate myself from that a lot of time, because it's like sometimes you see this thing and it's like upsets you on social media. And obviously there are things going on in the world that are valid to be upset about and care about politically. But then you just see these commentators. I just take a break and go out and talk to people in real life, like just talking to like people in classes, like when I was in school, or just like at my job, or talking to friends and stuff. And nobody has those like extremist views that it presents, that like everybody has extremist views on the internet.
Yeah. It's
very refreshing to just like talk to normal people who have like normal opinions. And
yeah. Well, that's what garners views, right? And it encourages the social influencers to keep going and to keep progressively getting worse. And it's not even just in politics. It could just be about, the diet. Like I've seen kind of vegans go really, really heavy on kind of their whole vegan lifestyle. And I've also heard some people who dig the hole too deep and can't get out anymore, where they live this life of just being vegan and doing all these things and they've built up a following, and they've built up like hundreds of thousands of people that preach their word and that talk about the effects and the benefits. But then they come to realize that, oh, this other diet, adding in a little bit of meat is actually not that bad for me. But they're publishing content all about vegans, but then in secret they've gone back to like chicken and beef.
Yeah, that's just all social media influencers, because it's like they're portraying this perspective that is them, like on the internet. Like they're not acting like they're playing a character, but they are to some extent, like you said with vegans. But all influencers do that. Like there's all like the memes about like influencer couples who like their brand is that they're a couple, but in real life they've broken up.
Yeah, I've
So
heard
it's like
about
as soon
that
as
a
the
bunch.
camera turns off, they're like, they
Yeah.
just like walk away. Just like how we pretend that we're friends for the camera, but we actually hate each other in real
I
life.
fucking hate this guy. Why is he even here?
It's because he pays me every time I come on.
I
Actually,
pay him to hang out with me. $50. He's actually increased it though.
yeah, I really can't stand him this much. Like that's why I had to raise the price to like $10 an hour.
Adri, you're gonna suck me dry. I'm gonna have no money anymore.
That's the plan. I'm taking the podcast down.
But bro, it's nuts. Hey, the reality of just life, and then it like being on social media for so long just morphs your entire perception of everything.
Mhm.
And I find like I don't even go on Instagram that much anymore. I just I use it as a way to communicate and to post. I like to call myself a producer rather than a consumer.
Yeah,
For most days at least.
that's a good thing. It's obviously, especially like how you're trying to use social media. You're trying to like produce content, and Instagram is such an interesting example of like the evolution of like an app, because it's not even the same thing that it was. Like, do you remember 10 years ago when we had Instagram? You wouldn't even see posts that you didn't follow.
Yeah.
All Instagram was a way to like keep up with your friends and see what they posted and stuff. And then you would follow a couple, like you'd follow like your hockey team's account, or you'd follow like the team, like your city's account or whatever. You would only follow like a certain amount of like accounts that you were interested in. And that was all you saw. And then it started to be that they would like, and it was chronological. So you'd see the most recent post, and then it started to be that it wasn't chronological, and you'd recommend related posts. And now Instagram isn't even like the same social media connectedness app. It's really just like another form of like how like YouTube and stuff for like Instagram Reels. It's just become TikTok.
True.
Like I'm fairly certain that most people who use Instagram, most of the time they're on it, it's not that they're communicating with their friends or seeing what their friends posted. They're just like scrolling through Reels. Because anything you do on, I don't know if this is, you find it, but on Instagram, no matter what I do, I end up on Reels. Like you can go through Reels through the Reels tab. Obviously, if somebody sends you like a post, you click on that post and then you're in Reels. Even if you're scrolling in your feed, you click on any of those posts, you're in Reels. No matter what you do on Instagram, you end up in Reels.
Yeah. And realistically, you don't need more than like 15 minutes to get through all of the stories and all the posts that your friends have published.
You could do it in like 5 minutes.
You can do it if you're really like tapping through that. But if you're actually like, rarely do people do this. Rarely do people see a 15-second video that your friend uploaded and go, oh yeah, I'm going to watch all 15 seconds of this. Usually it's like 5 seconds, boom. And then it varies and kind of, I've already seen this person. I've already known I was at this event, so I don't really need to see that. And it's more like relevance to you too. I find that I try not to go on my phone on my way back to Sherwood Park
from the bus
on the 414. Yeah. And I just like to meditate. I like to read. I like to maybe catch up on work now, listen to podcasts. I'd never go on Instagram or any of the social medias because I just find I come out of that bus ride drained. Like all the dopamine sucked out of me.
Yeah, that's a good habit. I try to reduce my Instagram
what I've
use.
noticed though is like being mindful of my surroundings are people don't look at the stories. People don't look at the posts for more than a second, bro. Like it's crazy
right.
just how fast. And it's not that I'm any different. Like I'm the same way of how I'm on social media. It just hardwires your brain to just go ham, to tap as fast as I can. And then so when people try to read a book and actually try to have to absorb long form content, it's so hard because you're so used to the rapid change in scenery and content. And I find that, I don't know if it's causation, but I find that if I'm on social media, I can't read a book as smoothly, and I can't do projects as smoothly. I can't even watch a movie for like smoothly. I find that the more I go on it, the less I have self-control.
You're right on with that, with this ability to like absorb. I think it's very helpful in certain situations, the ability to like jump around and absorb information quickly. But you're right with a long form content, because you can't look at a book page for 5 seconds and read it. You just maybe like lawyers who can read 20 pages in a minute can do that, but like any normal person or whatever, like just can't do that. You're not going to get any information if you just flip the page like that, and you're not getting the way the content was meant to be like experienced. So yeah, honestly, a lot of the times, especially when I'm watching movies or if I'm like playing a video game or something, I will like have my phone physically away from me, because I'll just open it without thinking about it. So it's like if I'm watching a movie, I will like put my phone across the room so I can't actually like it takes the requirement of like I shouldn't open my phone. Like I don't have to think about that. I just don't have it around.
That's smart, hey? What do you think's happening to the person that's just oblivious to the effects? Because I'm sure
everybody knows about the effects.
Everybody knows the effects, but I'm sure there's people that just don't, like, they know about the effects, but they just don't care. And so like 4 or 5 hours of TikTok every day, and just how can people even read a book now, man, with that? Like, I can't imagine what my brain would be like if I was just on TikTok for 4 hours.
Yeah. Well, because I don't know, dude. It really makes it a differently. Like I've been reading for the first time in like a long time, which I haven't gotten too far into my book, but I've been enjoying it and stuff, and it's very like different than when it was just even like 5 years ago, not having that like instant gratification with those kind of videos that just require no work on your part.
Yeah. The thing that I've like learned recently is I've been trying to read harder books, and even if I have to read it over and over, like a paragraph will just stump me, and I'll be like, but it's like training my mind that this is good. I don't need to get it right away, because this is what learning is, rather than just like I see like the chill guy memes, which I do like. That is a meme that I preach. That's the only meme that I really like advocate for. But I find like reading these articles, actually just sitting down and absorbing the material from front to back, has helped me just stay sane and be comfortable in the discomfort. Because I just read a 55-page science paper, super tiny lettering too, and was extremely boring.
That does sound really boring.
And it took me, dude, 8+ hours
for school.
Yeah. And I just thought, I could have just gotten ChatGPT to summarize it for me, and I probably would have gotten just as good. But I thought, man, I need to actually instill some discipline, because the gym in itself, that's another way to discipline yourself. But actually sitting down and reading, it's another beast, dude. Like there are two different realms, and being able to just sit down and relax and absorb the material without having to absorb it in a way where it's like constant and it's just rewarding, where you only get the reward after 8 hours, is so freeing.
That does sound very rewarding. And I think that's a very important thing, is that being able to have that discipline, that when you need to sit down and like read this thing because it's your responsibility, you have that ability. But I also think it's very important that people view reading for what it is, as a very like widespread activity. I think people view reading as one thing. It's like, and a lot of people view it as a chore. It's like, oh, I read this and I felt good because I did a hard thing at reading. But reading is like a huge, broad spectrum with everything that you can read. It's really like, so much of reading is like a fun activity. I think people view it too much as like a chore that needs to be done for your own well-being, when in some cases, sure, like reading maybe like a self-help book or like a meditation book or like a life improvement book or something, that's like kind of maybe like a chore to get through. But there's so much just chill reading, like easy books to read. Like you don't have to read anything too strenuous to go read a Harry Potter book. It's easy reading, it's fun, it's enjoyable. Like I think people should read with different goals in mind.
Yeah.
It shouldn't just be reading for the sake of, oh, I want to do an activity that's good for me, I'm going to read. It should be like, I might read that way. I might go read just for 20 minutes out of recreation. I might go read for like even like simple stuff, like read like cartoon books, read like manga books, read graphic novels, stuff like that. Like it doesn't just have to be like hardcore long form science articles or like masterpiece books that take you a year to get through and you have to read the page 10 times over and over to like get through. So I think that there's definitely that place for what you're talking about, but I think that there's just as important the other side of reading.
Yeah. It's to find the joy to it, right? Because when you attach something as being a chore, then it becomes this friction that's placed in between that, when really you can just find it fun. And then eventually, as you search more and more, you're going to find a harder read. And because you've developed all this time to put in, you're just a lot more curious and a lot more you'll probably have a better vocabulary.
Yeah.
And you'll just want to read more and more. And starting off with, like choosing easy books to read, maybe it wasn't your intention to read harder books, but it's just became a habit. And then you just, because you start off with Harry Potter, right? That's what I hear a lot of people, and then they usually go to Hunger Games and then diverge it. But then people just branch out to all these different ways, and they're all like, a lot of people classify Harry Potter or like a lot of the popular books as easy to read. But then when you actually want something more and more, you want, like, usually it opens it up to more difficult reads, right? And every single author has a different style of writing. So maybe it's not, the book itself isn't necessarily difficult, but their stylist, the style that they write in, maybe something new to you. So by adopting all these different mindsets and all these different kind of perspectives, you're just able to understand the harder books. Does that make sense?
No, I totally understand, where you create yourself like sort of a bedrock in reading with these like more simple isn't the right word, but more just kind of like common, more basic like titles that because in a way sometimes reading can be a bit like, just like a lot of activities, it's a bit of an acquired taste. So you may not want to jump right into this hard kind of like alternative type of fiction book or whatever, but if you work your way up to it, you might even really like it. But you might not have enjoyed that book if you just went all in right there.
Yeah, that's what I've learned, because I've read some pretty tough books, and if I had started on that one, I would have just destroyed my confidence, because I would have absorbed minimal. I wouldn't have absorbed any of it. That's like if you just started a kid in grade 6, right? They just want to drop out right away. And it's just the progression to it. And it doesn't have to be all that hard on yourself. I heard this, do you know Dr. Healthy Gamer?
No.
He's like the Indian guy who talks to gamers and
really, I do not know this guy.
Well, he's really he's really big into he's really big into he's a psychologist. He was a game addict.
Anti-gamer.
He isn't anti-gaming, but he is an advocate to minimize the kind of gaming addiction.
Okay.
Yeah, he's not like all video games are bad, but he's more that you can live a life that is more balanced. And I think on a podcast that I listened to him on, he talks about how things don't need to be that hard, right? Like you hear about like the grind set, and a lot of people, you need to grit your teeth to get into the gym, into law school, and to have fulfilling relationships. You need to try, but it doesn't need to be that hard. He frames it as like you can just not have that narrative, and you can just go to the gym because you want to see your friends. And he even made he even has some anecdotal evidence where he got to med school by studying 2 hours every day because he was just consistent, and he would just put so much focus and attention. And he said that a lot of his friends too didn't need to have this hustle grind set, which just sucks the life out of people, which is a big kind of revolutionary idea for me, because I always thought that, to be successful, I need to kind of grit my teeth and just plow away and just keep going. But now I view it as I could make this fun, right? This doesn't have to be something that's like terrible. Like, does that make sense?
Yeah, it's no matter how as important discipline is in life, and it's super important, it's always going to be better if, no matter how disciplined you are, if you actually just want to go do this thing versus if you don't want to do it, but you are disciplined enough to do it. It's so much better to just want to do it and enjoy doing it.
And a lot of it's framing.
Mm-hmm.
Like I never really liked running. Like working out was something that I didn't like green tea. It was an acquired taste for me. Like it's like I had to frame the activity for me to go. I had to frame it in a certain way for me to want to go. I'm not like, if I go to the gym, I'll see Adri, and I've just by chance I just develop memories at the gym, or like eating certain foods where I don't necessarily like the food, but the framing, thinking of the long term highlights kind of how I'm gonna feel. And yeah, dude. What book are you reading right now?
It's like I got it for Christmas from my aunt. It's like a nonfiction book about the like history of the mafia, like the 5 families of the mafia in New York. Because I like mob movies and stuff. So
I know. I mean, your favorite movie was The Irishman, right?
Yeah, it's one of my favorites right now. It's a really good movie, and like
3 hours, bro.
I know.
Yeah, it's a long one.
I know.
I got through like
Scorsese makes long movies, dude.
I got to, or actually, almost a quarter. I didn't get far too much into it.
Also, because with all like the streaming service movies now, directors can just make movies as long as they want.
Yeah,
because there's no like recommendation of like, this is coming out in the theater, and you need to expect people to sit there for like, because you can't expect somebody to sit in the theater for really longer than like 2.5, maybe 3 hours at the max. But now directors can make like, I want this movie to do 3.5 hours, because like there's people can watch it in bits at home on their streaming service.
But I wonder if like that's more successful though. Like when you see a 3.5 hour movie, it's like, I think that scares people, or that just like,
no, you're definitely right. It definitely scares people.
It has to be really good.
It definitely, like, yeah, The Irishman's one of my favorite movies, and it took me a couple times to watch it. I think there were 2 separate times when it first came out that I watched like the first hour and a half or 2 hours and kind of got bored or fell asleep or something like that. And then it isn't until really like I rewatched it about like probably over the summer or something when I really started to like enjoy it.
Yeah. I like that scene where what's his name? Who's the main character again? Robert De
Niro, and he plays this guy named Frank Sheeran.
Yeah. Well, he walks into the store after that guy messed with his daughter.
Yeah,
and he's like an old guy, but like the way he just beats up the guy is so comedic.
Yeah,
he doesn't look all that strong, but it just goes to show that a person that isn't capable of violence, who appears to be stronger, is helpless against a smaller, weaker, older person that is willing to go to lengths to inflict violence. Like I've met guys way bigger, but they wouldn't hurt a fly, you know? Like,
And in the Mafia book, they talk about that. Like a lot of like the old time like mob bosses, guys who have like killed people and like had giant crime syndicates under them, are like small guys. Like they're not all like 6'2", like 220, 230 guys. A lot of them are like 5'6", 5'7", 130, 140 pound little guys. Yeah.
really?
Like, and I'm not a big guy myself, but it's just like a lot of them are smaller guys.
Dude, you're telling me you and I could be mafia bosses?
I don't know if we have the right genes for it. I don't know.
Dude, you have to be willing to like go above and beyond like human etiquette.
Well, also I think an under discussed part about it is how good at like business the guys are. Like because there's a lot of like lower level guys in the mafia who are like tough street gangster, like tough guys. But to be a mafia boss, you got to be like a tough street gangster, tough guy, but also like really smart and really good at business. Like those guys were like really good. Like had they not been like terrible people and stuff, they could have had successful business empires that were totally legitimate.
Yeah, they could have like just been one of the executives at like Amazon or something, right?
Honestly,
just as good.
Like, well, the mafia isn't too much of a thing anymore, at least.
At least not that we know of.
Yeah, I don't think at least not in the traditional format. It's kind of not in the same way that it was like prominent in like the early and like mid or like basically during the 1900s, like the 20th century. It was very like powerful and prominent, especially in like New York.
Yeah, dude, I watched my fair share of mafia movies.
Well,
Like,
that's like the young like 20-year-old guy thing, right?
But I watched like The Godfather, all of it, Goodfellas, and just something. I knew they were bad people, but it was like inspirational to me. Like it was like they were willing to provide and they were willing to go above and beyond to get the job done, and they didn't question. They didn't question themselves, right? They didn't really like. Yes, there were consequences in the end. You could see the lives quickly as fast as they gained all the power and glory and status. It all fell down pretty quickly too. But on their way up, it was just so inspiring.
Yeah, that's why I really like a lot of those Scorsese movies, like Goodfellas and stuff like, and The Wolf of Wall Street and stuff, where you really see like the rise and the fall. And that's why I think actually why right now The Irishman is probably my favorite Scorsese movie, because the character is very different than the character of a lot of his other mafia movies, where he isn't like aiming to be this huge guy. Like he's not this big money earner. He's not like trying to like climb his way up the mafia and stuff. He's not even in the mafia. He's just an associate, because like the mafia is Italian and he's like Irish, so he can't be a made member. He's just an associate. And it's really interesting because he doesn't have these giant aspirations, and he doesn't reach like a crazy high level of power. He's just like does what he's told and is like associates with higher level guys. So it's very different than the other Scorsese like protagonists who are really like money hungry and trying to have this meteoric rise.
Yeah, I'll have to give it a try, man. You've convinced me. All right,
and we're back. Thank you to BetterHelp for sponsoring this podcast.
Thank you for BetterHelp, for AG1, for
what is AG1?
Athletic Greens. Used to be known as
they like
Athletic
sponsor
Greens.
a lot of podcasts.
What's that?
Do they sponsor like a lot of podcasts?
Dude, they sponsor every single podcast.
Really?
And Huberman's promoted that brand for as long as I can remember. And he's in his promotion, he says, I've been taking AG1 for 12 years.
Do you think that's true?
Yeah, I trust Huberman. I trust. See, with the people that I look up to in the parasocial relationships that I have, which includes Chris Williamson, David Goggins, Mark Manson, who else? This guy named Winter Starcraft, and he's just like a guy.
He play StarCraft?
Gaming. Yeah, he just makes StarCraft videos, and I love him. I didn't
know you like StarCraft.
What's that?
I didn't know you like StarCraft.
Dude, I still binge it here and there. Like I
thought you only played League. I didn't know you like StarCraft.
I love StarCraft, dude. It's not as well known anymore.
No,
but
it's cooler to like StarCraft than it is to like League.
dude, but I still watch copious amounts of StarCrafts. But
Maybe I'll have to watch a little bit. I've never seen any StarCraft gameplay.
if you don't play the game, it won't make sense to you.
Well, I don't know. I could learn.
Could learn, that's true.
We could play StarCraft.
We could. But where was I going with this? With the people that I do watch, I look for honesty. And like, while you can't really like tell, you can't really like, you kind of just assume based on their actions, based on what they tell you, based on kind of the news that's circulating, because you could kind of tell long enough, like after you listen to someone for a certain amount of time, what type of person they are.
Mm-hmm.
You won't really know. It's not like a friendship. It's like a parasocial relationship. And it's just in my everyday life that I think that's why I get attracted to podcast hosts and people who write books, and because I get to actually know them.
What podcast host are you attracted to? Give me a name.
Joe Rogan. I'm really attracted to Joe Rogan. Chris Williamson, Lex Friedman, Theo Vaughn. I listen to all of them.
Do you listen to any women podcast hosts?
Actually, Mel Robbins. I think she's.
What does she do?
Time. She's like a self-help guru, just like the other ones. But I would listen to Anna Lemke. What's that?
Do you play StarCraft?
No, dude. I wish she did. Could you imagine?
Maybe she does.
If like the person that you highly look up to just plays your video game? That would be for cool. Fun.
Yeah.
Who do you listen to? Who's in the Adri parasocial relationship sphere?
I don't know, dude. I don't really listen to too many podcasts, honestly.
Well, like not just necessarily the podcasts, but like books or like kind of celebrities, people that have a big following and you're part of that community.
I don't know. I'm not like just some like sports stuff. Like I don't know if you've ever heard of the show like Inside the NBA.
No.
Okay. Well, basically it's just like it's like a pre, mid, post game show where they like operate out of Atlanta and kind of cover NBA games, but it's very like goofy and funny, and it's got like Charles Barkley and Shaquille O'Neal and stuff on it. And then I don't know, it's not that anything serious, but it's just a very funny show. A few years ago, I really while ago, like probably 3, 4, 5 years ago, every day I would watch another sports like kind of like analysis debate show called Undisputed, which had like Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharp on it. I really liked both of them. I don't really watch too much anymore, and they kind of split up and did their own things. But yeah, that's about it. Honestly, I don't really have too many people who I like regularly listen to. I have been watching like a lot of it jumps around, honestly. Like I've been watching a lot of like Shane Gillis stuff recently. Some comedians.
That guy's
like,
funny.
Yeah. I guess maybe if it's like I'd have to speak like that, I'd like to listen to some like comedy podcast. Another guy like I'm going to see in Vancouver, Stavros Halkias. Going to see him in like a month in Vancouver perform, so I'm excited about that.
Bro, I've only been to a couple stand-ups, which actually you and Mark.
Yeah.
Actually, well, I'm thinking it's just Thursdays, dude. It's just I'm jam-packed that day. I've got like a
it's not that
3-hour
deep,
class, but I love stand-up comedies. And something about the energy in the stand-up sphere and the energy that erupts, even if it's not as funny. If you were just told that in person, it wouldn't be as funny. But since everyone else is there and it's like the lighting and kind of just like, why would they say that? And it just like, I've never had that much laughter. Like Netflix specials don't really do it for me.
Really? I really like the Netflix specials a lot. You like the environment around. The
environment and kind of I really get inspired at how brave these people are coming onto stage. Because with comedy, with stand-up comedy, you have to show up and you have to be funny, right? But with performances, you've mastered that over and over, and kind of people going into it, people know what to expect. But with comedy, if it's the same thing as what you said the last show, and people have already heard it thousands of times, it gets old. You always constantly have to create more content. I think Joe Rogan talks about it a lot. And yeah, I just think comedians have a lot of like massive balls, man.
I think stand-up comedy is really like an underrated performance art, because with a lot of performances, if you're doing a play or you're doing a music show, that's very difficult, obviously very difficult to perform, but you have this thing that you stick to. Like you aren't that in, the audience is there and the audience is going to react to its react. But it's like, let's say the audience isn't super into the play. You can kind of focus on continue to act in the play and continuing to do your routine and what you're supposed to do. But with stand-up comedy, you really need to play off how the audience is going. Like you need to be like, okay, well, I should do this joke. I shouldn't do that joke. And it's so easy to like one slip up of speaking and you just have ruined your like 30-second, minute-long joke with your punchline and stuff. I think it's really like, and it's just you. There's nothing up there. There's no backbone of support of your backup dancers or your other cast members or anything. It's just you doing stand-up. So I'm not really an artistic person, but I think if I was a creative artistic person, that's what I'd want to be. It would be like a stand-up comedian. Because I also really, really like my favorite stand-up comedians. You can tell that they're really smart. Like they're not necessarily saying smart things. And I really sometimes enjoy stupid, like, dude, like that was stupid comedy or whatever. Like I really enjoy kind of all sorts of comedy, but you can really tell with a lot of the comedians that they get it. They get what is going on with society. They get societal norms. They understand how people think and how people act and for what reasons they do. And they're able to like kind of make jokes around that. So I like it because they're able to like not say smart things. Like the things they're saying aren't smart, but they wouldn't be able to say those things without understanding how the world works.
Yeah,
like they kind
true.
of dance around saying smart things, but they know those smart. And I think I really appreciate that. Like they're able to just dabble into those like social commentary things while most of it's being funny. And I really enjoy it like that.
Yeah, they're well aware of what they're saying.
Yeah, they know exactly how everything is interpreted. So I think I do really think that like to be a really good stand-up comedian, maybe not like smart in a traditional sense, but you need to understand how the world works. You can't be like an oblivious stand-up comedian.
Yeah. And you're prepared for the backlash, because with stand-up, you will offend many people. I think that's from what I've seen, the most successful ones are also very much hated.
That isn't a lot of cases, yes. I wouldn't say that's a requirement. Like if you look at like Jerry Seinfeld was like the biggest comedian in the world for like a decade or two. And he's very like above board, non-offensive. So I think that in some cases you do like will offend people, but I don't think it's a necessity.
Yeah. Would you say it's offending people is a cheap way of becoming a comedian though? I've heard that. Like people say, oh, like it's so easy for them to be a comedian and be successful because all they do is punch down. They just punch down and make fun of the people that are helpless. And I'm like, I don't know, like some pretty creative jokes there.
Yeah, I mean, if you do it in the right way, I think that maybe you can get to a modicum of success by just like making fun of people, doing crowd work, calling somebody fat or insulting them, their haircut or their clothes or something like that, or insulting just a low level joke. So I think you definitely can be kind of a hack in that way, but I definitely think that there's more kind of like risque, edgy humor that is a lot more interesting and funny to different groups of people. So I don't think that the really big comedians like got that way by just being a hack.
Yeah, true. I also wonder, like with all the success that we see within the comedians that we consume, right? You hear about like starving artists, and you hear about like failed actors. Like for the people that do succeed into Hollywood, into the and make it, there's times 10 or times 100 people that don't.
Probably times like 1,000 that don't.
I bet you for comedians, it's probably a lot more soul crushing, because with acting, it's kind of, oh, you don't get the part. But with comedians, like you go on there and it's like an open mic and you just failure after failure.
You
no
see it in
laughs.
everybody's eyes. You see
it.
their faces if they're laughing or they're not laughing.
Yeah, exactly.
Or if they're uncomfortable or if they're chilling and having a good time.
Yeah. So that's what I kind of really look up to when it comes to the comedians. Is I'm sure they've probably gone through that route, because I've realized that in life, like a lot of the ultra successful people that I look up to, whether it be in the comedian space or whether it be athletes, podcasters, gamers, they always talk about the failure. They always talk about like the constant roadblocks, the constant obstacles. And that's just what really, really inspires me. And that's what I see on how to actually make it, is to stomach the failure. But then there's just a point too where you just don't make it.
I think,
right?
And I think comedians, even more than other things, every famous comedian I've seen has stories of how they've just bombed miserably starting out. Like even compared to, I think, other things, because I think like even with athletes, I'm sure that there's some athletes who have never really failed. Like they've always been at least individually successful. Like I'm sure there's been athletes who like have failed on big stages where they didn't perform, like their team didn't win or anything, but they themselves still perform to a decent level. But with comedians, comedy is not an innate thing. Obviously some people are innately funny, but to be a good stand-up comedian, every great stand-up comedian had to learn and had to bomb in rooms and had to like be really unsuccessful at some moments to be like, okay, this is what's funny. This is how I deliver this joke. This is the timing of this and this. Like it's really being funny is just one step out of a million to be like a really good stand-up comedian.
Yeah. And being able to stomach the times where it does go badly.
They got to be so brave, dude. They got to be so brave.
You have to be so patient too, right?
Like to get up on that stage and talk for 5 minutes and have nobody laugh at all, and then just get off stage.
Yeah.
And then that's just over. And then you got to like build up the courage to go do that, to risk that happening again. And not only risk that happening again, but you got to change things. You got to figure out what went wrong, what went right. Was it things that I can control? Like, was it my thing, or was it that I was in an unfortunate spot in the set? Like the person before me didn't do good and that wrecked my jokes. Or
what I've derived from failures that are deep like that is I always think it's my fault. I tried to make a habit of looking at things that I could have done better. And like that leads me to the book that I'm reading right now too. It's called Mindset. It's by Carol Dweck. And there's two types of mindsets, according to the book. And there's the fixed mindset, which is the world is the way it is, and what you're given, kind of the genetics that you've been bestowed upon, and your looks and your IQ and everything that makes up who you are. It's the way it is because that's just life. But then with a growth mindset, which a lot of these comedians most likely have, a lot of ultra successful people most likely have growth mindsets, are because when they experience a setback, when they experience something that isn't quite as adept to how they should have performed, is they see that as a growth experience. They see that as something where they can develop. And of course, you're still going to feel like a loser after. You're still going to feel like the world is on your shoulders, but you let that be a sign of further improvement. You let that, you use that as a lesson. And like this book has like so many different case studies of like people who have failed time and time again, but then the way they frame things is just so beautiful.
Yeah, my one issue with those the stories of constant failure and success is that I do worry that it occasionally leads to some people not having that happy outcome at the end.
Yeah. Well, it does happen.
Yeah. Because
Yeah.
there's all these stories of these comedians or actors who've been rejected a million times and then they were successful. But how many stories are there of those people that got rejected a million times and never reached any modicum of success?
Probably times 100.
Like I don't want, everyone needs to be kind of realistic in their hopes and dreams. You can only do what is in your control. I think sometimes, and I definitely do this, is that people spend too much time trying to change and worrying about things that they can't control. And then also they don't fully put in the effort to change the things that they can control. They kind of will put a medium amount of effort into both sides. Like they'll try and fight against things that can't be controlled and then won't fully focus on things that can be, when they should obviously put very little to no effort into the first category of things you can't control and full effort into things you can control.
Yeah, I struggle with that. I mean, everybody wants to have that growth mindset, but I feel most people fluctuate. Like like most people are more of a growth mindset, but then less of a fixed mindset. But we all experience that focusing on what you can't control, because the negativity is so salient. Like worrying is just so imminent, right? It's so important to you. And it seems that worrying about it actually is constructive and it actually leads you to some greater outcome. But what I found is, like right now, if I think of all the times that I've been staring in the mirror, like thinking if I'm good enough, you're like worrying about that test that I got back, I feel stupid, and I ruminate on kind of, if I'll ever have friends in the future, or if I'll have a successful career, or if I'll be married and have kids. Is that even possible? Or what if I don't even have, like I don't even have the genetics to even reproduce, and then I keep digging the hole, and next thing you know, I'm 30 minutes later and I lost my peace. And the biomarkers in me, I have increased adrenaline in my body. I'm stressed out. I have lower quality of life. And sometimes this happens too when I'm just talking to someone, where I'm out there. Actually, I should be enjoying it. Like I should be enjoying the moment, but I don't, because this thought comes into my head. But I think it's the constant reminder of, okay, that is not useful. That's totally useless. Yeah. Those thoughts. And if you just discard those thoughts, the amount of productivity, peace, and happiness and that you could amalgamate, it would be tenfold. I'd find. I think this stands true for majority of the population.
Yeah, just worrying about those like far off big picture events that in the moment you have no control over. Or sometimes I like worry about things that have happened in the past or have done in the past or whatever, and like, could I have done this differently or whatever? And just the exact same thing. It's not in the moment. It's not your current reality. Worrying about things in the future and in the past that you have no control over just provides very little to you, versus what is real is in the moment. What are the actions I can take today, this week, this month that will get me to where I want to go? Those overarching goals, which you can't, because you can't just flip a switch and like 10 years from now, you're where you want to be, married with kids, or have a big friend group, or have a bunch of jobs. That's not how that works. You can take little steps in the moment and in the like near coming future that will hopefully lead you to those goals. And maybe they won't. But at the end of the day, in 10 years, whether you've reached those goals or you haven't reached those goals, you can be like, I made those proper steps and it worked out. And it didn't work out, but I have no regrets. I don't think I would have done anything differently to reach those goals.
Yeah. It's like you won't have that lingering what if. Like, what if I just did that instead? Like, I think regret stems from people worrying, and worrying causes inaction. And as you said, the action step mitigates the possibility of regret. 'Cause
Yes.
of course, you're always just going to have regret and you're always going to wonder what if. But if you take action towards a goal and you do something, it doesn't have to be something great. It just has to be something. Put your mind to it and you actually give it time. In the times where you feel despair, you feel happy, you feel sad, you feel angry, you still hit the gym, you still study, you still are there for a friend, and you still go on that date, or you still keep trying. You don't let kind of the emotions stifle you, and you don't let that beat you down into you're incapable of further action. I think by just going on, you will get the results of what you put in. I solely believe that. And the amount of effort that you put in will be reflected. And I think so many people do so many things all at once. Like, oh, they want to hit the gym. They want to be successful in their career. They want to be great at every single one. But there are no, I heard this quote by Thomas Sowell. There are no solutions, only trade-offs. So if you spend 3 hours at the gym, you'll have less time for studying.
Yeah.
If you spend 4 hours studying, you'll have less time for the gym. If you spend 6 hours with your family, you'll just have less time for both of that. And it's like, yes, I do believe that people are not immune to the relentless pursuit of trying to succeed and still end up losing. But I also think that if you just, very cheesy, but I believe in the cheesy quotes are really the answers to life. That if you just put your mind to it, if you just really put your mind to it and do everything you can in pursuit of that. Granted, you don't disregard your health, but even then, some people will go that far. You will get what you deserve in a long enough time frame. Because I think I've mentioned this to you, and this is something that I always repeat to myself in times where I am in despair and I am ruminating, is the 1 year is too short of a time frame, even 5 years. But if you think about it in 10 years, 20 years, think about how much you've accomplished in the last 10 years. Like you in middle school would just be discombobulated. You wouldn't be able to understand or fully comprehend the extent to getting a degree and maintaining all these relationships and having this thought-provoking thought mindset. You wouldn't be able to comprehend that. Think about 10, 20 years from now, right? It's just, I think we think we're too narrow focused, and we think too much about the things we can't control. But I always tell myself, as long as you put in the work, you will get what you deserve. Yeah, man.
Because it's that, in my opinion, that's truly what like being an adult is. At least that's the biggest difference of being an adult versus being a kid, is the level of control you have over your life. And you're so right, because as a kid, kind of stuff just happens around you and you're just there. But as an adult, you have to make stuff happen. Yeah. And that's what I think you're talking about, is that it's very easy to fall into the trap of just kind of coasting as an adult and not controlling what to the max what you have to control. And then what you said, it's you are going to get what you deserve. If you don't put in the proper effort, you're not, even if you put in the proper effort, you might not reach what you wanted, but at least you've done what you can. If you don't put in the proper effort, you're not 100% not going to reach what you want. It's not just going to happen.
I'm going to use our friendship as evidence for that. Is if one of us just stopped saying yes to go to the gym, if this happened, and I've heard this from many friends where they just stop putting in effort after high school, they just stop talking, or they don't really make a commitment to say happy birthday, to call, to reach out. It just withers. And what I've always wanted to surround myself with good friends and quality people. And I have you, Jack, my friend Jeff, Ethan, a lot of people, Severio, and that's something that I actually put my mind to, that I often neglect because I'm so focused on wanting a girl that I could make my wife and having a family, that I forget that I do have a friend here with me on a podcast. I have a podcast. I can go to the gym. I am in school, that I can make green tea, and that I have agency. I'm not in a wheelchair. That I have my family with me. They support me. No toxic relationships. Because I think we always, on the other side, the grass is always greener, right? Because once we attain what we sought out for, and there's this quote with Naval Ravikant, and it's, desire is a contract we make with ourselves to be unhappy until we get what we want.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of I read that, I'm like, wow. Because then I had a goal set in mind, and as soon as I achieved it, it wasn't like I was like totally fulfilled and blissed out of my mind. I just looked for more.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like this moving goalpost, bro.
It's this difficult balance that you need to have between gratefulness and like kind of goal setting / desire. Because I've always said this, that being grateful and being complacent are kind of the same thing. They're extremely related. One is just a good thing and one is a bad thing. Because it's very like, if you're grateful for what you have, then that kind of means that like maybe you should just accept what you have and shouldn't be reaching for more, which isn't a great thing. But obviously being complacent and not just being completely okay with where you are and not wanting anything else, and just kind of being like, not lazy isn't the right word, but not trying to striving for anything else isn't really great either. But if you're just purely striving for things and you're just like, I want this and then I'll be happy. I want that. I want to earn this much money. I want to buy this car. I want to rent this apartment. I want to date this person. I want to be friends with this friend group. That's like, once you reach those things, you're just going to be looking for more. So you need to have this delicate balance of just being mindful and being grateful for what you have and being happy along the way, but also going towards a goal. That's truly like what it's about, is just being happy along the way.
Where do you see yourself in 10 years?
Right here in this room with you doing episode.
It would probably have 20 episodes by then.
1231.
You think, would you come at least like 3 times a year, 4 times a year? Yeah.
Even if I move away, anytime I like come back to visit my parents or whatever, I would come and take out a couple hours.
What I hear from people is they always say, oh, like, I don't want to say something that I will regret 10 years later, which I think you've never said anything that you'd regret.
No, I think that's a bit of a cop out. I think everyone knows how to like not say something like ridiculously controversial.
Yeah, I don't think, have we said anything controversial?
No. And also it gets overplayed what everyone, in my opinion, I think people are a little too afraid to like post things like what they say publicly.
Yeah.
You really have to say something pretty outrageous to get like canceled.
Yeah, true. Like if they, like a lot of people seem to be scared that, oh, what if they on their job, this podcast is seen and I'm saying something. That's what I hear a lot. But yeah, a lot of
that would be
guests.
A crazy job to go back and watch like an hour-long podcast.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
Like just this interview, just to like see what you said, and then there's like, and they'd have to listen like intently for that like one time you said something somewhat like that's not going to happen.
True. I think this podcast would actually be great for the resume. You can have long form talks.
That's it.
Like this is a great skill to have, to be able to sit down with someone one-on-one. That's great for meetings. That's great for just human interaction. And you can actually see someone's body language and you can see the way they are, versus if it's just like a Zoom call and you're getting interviewed, then you can't really see that type of person. But dude, right now, man, we're talking some deep stuff. There's some friendship stuff where we're being civil.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's just the conversations flowing.
It definitely is like a good, like, I guess if they ask you like what are some like extracurriculars, kind of fun things you like to do with your friends and stuff, it's definitely like a point of interest. If you've been on the podcast a couple times, and then especially for, well, you are in a different spot because it's like you're as this, as the progenitor of it. You are.
What is that word?
I don't know. It's just a
Progenitor?
I think it's related to like lineage and like.
Okay. I don't have to censor that.
No, it's not a bad word. It's just it's a funny word that I like to use sometimes. It just basically means like, I think it means like ancestor or whatever.
Oh, yeah. People also ask if they can swear on the podcast a lot.
And then you say
Like,
no.
Say, yes, fuck yeah.
Fuck yeah, dude.
Breaks the ice. But
and then they say racial slurs and you gotta cut that part out.
But dude, I think people are just terrified to sit down for an hour to 2 hours because it's like a form of public speaking.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard public speaking is like one of the biggest fears out there.
That's like what stand-up comedy is, basically.
That's true. Which I never really resonated with me. I never really got kind of why public speaking is.
No, I'm not. I mean, I can understand why, just because it's like there's a lot of people focused entirely on you, but I'm not. Maybe if I had to go like freestyle a speech, but if I was given like a speech that I like have pre-written and it's not anything too crazy, like there's not like anything controversial in there, or it's not like trying to be funny, but if it's just giving a speech, I'm not too worried. I could give a large public speech.
Yeah, I think you'd be great at it too.
Thank you. I think you would be great at it.
Thank you. I try to be funny in my classes, man.
I know you do.
But the recent classes, it hasn't been hitting. It's been crickets.
What do you mean? You haven't
like nobody like maybe the class isn't big enough. Maybe it's like a different type of humor, but usually it erupts in laughter. And I'm like, yeah.
You know what I think it is? I think it's now that you're in a bit later degree classes. I think later degree students are a bit more like sticklers about people like making jokes and stuff.
Yeah, like
I think like students in like later degree classes are a bit more like kind of just like get in and get out and do the class, when I think maybe undergrad classes are a bit more like loose.
That's true.
Or not, they're all undergrad classes, but like first year and second year classes now that you're like in third and stuff.
Yeah. No, my 300 level class last semester, it had a lot of hits.
Do you still sit right at the front?
Yeah, close to it. Yeah, pretty much. Because I just don't like sitting in the back, man. You know, you see all these people playing games and you can't really see the prof.
That is true.
Like,
there's always like so many like Clash Royale and like chess games and like,
yeah.
And then there's always the person having like have you ever noticed that in class it's always there's somebody having like an iPhone, like an iMessage conversation on their MacBook. That's a common thing. It's like, because I don't have a MacBook, so I don't know, but I guess I didn't know that was a thing, but people seem to like will text people through iMessage through their MacBook, and there's always somebody having like long text conversation.
Yeah, dude, it's distracting, man. It's so distracting.
I saw this funny like meme talking about like who sits where, and it's like the people sit in the back just don't want to have any attention, and there's like the people who are the real keeners who sit like right at the front, and then there's like the people who sit like 2 rows back who are just as keeners but don't want to seem like that. And then the funniest part is that like, you know, in like lecture halls there's like the long line of seats, so it's like the people who like willingly sit right on the outside seat, they love like the free lap dances they get by everybody walking over top of them. Like they pretend like funny. They don't, but it's like they
love it. That's a seat. That's why they chose them.
Yeah, no, seriously. Well, yeah, it's because you know that people are going to be walking past you if you sit right on the outside. I also love how everyone just like has their unofficial assigned seat. Every single person in a university class does this, is they sit in one section and then they sit, and I already did this to you, and sit in that same section, like either in that same exact seat or like 1 or 2 seats away from it.
Yeah, man.
Nobody jumps around in their seating. Nobody does that.
That's true. Do you talk to the person right beside you at the beginning of class? No.
Maybe if it's like a smaller class, like sometimes the business classes have like some discussion involved in them, but very rarely, like, especially if it's like mainly a lecture, I don't really talk to the person next to me. I know
Yeah,
you do try to make a connection.
I make it an effort to talk to the person right to me, left to me. I like to, usually by the end of the semester, I'll have 3 close people that I regularly talk to, and we like schedule studying and meet up after with every single class.
Have you ever had it where like it's like the first day of a semester and you make an effort to like be friends with the person, and then the next class they choose not to sit with you?
Oh, all the time.
Really?
All the time, dude. It's so hurtful, especially
it's pretty insulting.
Especially when we leave the class and hang out for like an hour, and then the next class I don't see them
That's
anymore.
happened where you've hung out with them outside of class and they chose not to sit with
This
you?
one chick, man,
That's
name
crazy,
was
dude.
her name was Sonia.
Sonia. Fuck you, Sonia.
I'm sure she had her reasons. But yeah, dude, I don't know. I just, maybe it's the way I came off. I didn't say anything rude. I was just really excited.
And you hung out after class?
Hung out after class, and then
that's shocking.
Then I sat.
Did she
back
drop the class?
No, she was there. I saw her. I wouldn't miss the red hair. But yeah, dude. I don't know. It's just, it's hurtful, man. But then that is hurtful. And you just roll with the punches. Then you just keep going, and that's
so weird. Yeah, but I guess that's going back to the things you can't control. You can't control other people's behavior.
No, you can't. You can't. And then, yeah, it happens for one person. For every 4 person I talk to, it happens probably, yeah, so 25% of the time.
But I definitely commend you. That's really awesome that you set up this like home base of just knowing people in each class, because I think a lot of people go to university and just do not make friends, especially like a place like the U of A, which is a commuter school. There are so many people who are not in any clubs, who take the bus to school or drive to school or take the LRT, go to class, and then come home. And they don't have any friends in any classes. I was like that my first year. I didn't have any friends in any classes. They aren't in any clubs, like I said, and they just are only in university, are only getting the school part out of it, when university is this giant experience.
Yeah, man, it's a networking
like
place.
20% of it.
True. Yeah, I just try to, it's awkward at first, but eventually once you get a system in place, then you just you realize just how easy it is just to strike up a conversation. And I use the 3 strikes rule. Like if they show up the next day after, so that's the second time, then the third time, and then that's usually when I try to plan stuff outside of the class and like get their Instagrams and everything,
and try to meet up with them, not just in relation to class, but
yeah. But it's
definitely a good method.
But I usually, if it's off really well in the first try, then I ask for their Instagram just right after class ends. If it's like, if the vibes are there. But as a rule, it's just third time, let's play it safe.
No, that's definitely smart. It's very like, if you've had 3 positive, like long maybe they're not long discussions, but you sat with them, just talk with them, it's been 3 positive, everyone's going to be very accepting of giving you their information at that point. But it might be coming on slightly too strong after just the first time of meeting.
Yeah. I used to not have that rule, and I could, like, it seems like the power dynamics with people, and this isn't even in romance, right? It seems that if you're too interested in someone, because there's a level of enthusiasm that you need to hit for people to actually like reciprocate.
Of course.
Because you need to be excited to see someone. Otherwise, you'd just be viewed as rude. But if too much excitement, you come off as annoying. And I've experienced that myself, where people are too much energy, even though I don't really know them or we're not that close, and it comes off as too much, and I see that. Looking back, I've seen that I've been too excited when I've been interacting with people, and this kind of scared people. And this isn't in romance. This is very salient in romance too, but this isn't just in romance.
No, I understand totally. It's that everyone has that kind of slight built-in skepticism of the slight wariness of being too invested too quickly. That's the you don't want to like your slight nervousness of why is this person so enamored with me, or this group so enamored with me quickly? They don't even know me. How can they like me so much? It's like, are they like that with everybody? And that was actually a huge part of like fraternity recruiting, because in fraternity recruiting there's this thing called like rush, and that's just the recruitment. It's just recruitment. And how you recruit somebody is you like kind of tell them about the fraternity, tell them like what the responsibilities and what they would get if they joined and stuff, and like they introduce them to guys. And then you do this thing where you give them like a bid. So you give them like a piece of paper that says like this person is like intending to join, and then the recruitment and the president sign it, and the guy who's joining signs it. And sororities do the very similar thing. But it's that there's a big discussion of when should you give somebody a bid? Because generally it's like you give it to them after the first couple times you've met them and you've like explained what it is and stuff, because you don't want to give it to them right away. Because even if like it's cool and they're excited to join a fraternity, it's a little comes off a little too strong, as if they're ready. Like you're trying to get them to join immediately. You've just met them. Like you want to get to know it a little bit. And it's the same. It goes the other way around when you're recruiting in the fraternity, is that if you just meet a guy and he's already in love with the fraternity and wants to participate in everything and join, that's not necessarily a bad sign, but you got to take it with a grain of salt. It's like, well, why are they picking our fraternity so quickly over checking out all the other? Because you want guys to check out and girls to check out the different sororities and find the people they mesh with, and the fraternity or sorority Greek organization that they have the same values with and are the most kind of like aligned with before they decide on one. So you want to be able to like, especially be like, well, why does this guy want to join so quickly? So it's both sides. Both sides need to feel each other out. And that's the same thing with that's more in a group dynamic, but I think it applies exactly to the relationship with people, romantic or platonic. It's just that it's like, why does this person like me so much or so interested in me? You want to slowly build it up to like, oh, I've met this person 5 times, 6 times, and we've talked for hours at this point. I understand why they're excited to see me, or I'm excited to see them, rather than just having met once for 20 minutes and then.
Yeah. It's like, it all comes down to trust.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Can you really trust a person that just wags their tail and gets all excited the first time you meet them? Or like, there's that level of skepticism that needs to be presented first, where you're not just going to let someone in your door after just meeting them for the first time, right? And this, like, oh, if I'm connected to this person, that means that they'll just let anybody in, and that causes some tension and some danger, right? You don't want like I read a quote where you can't trust someone who can't say no.
That's very true. Yeah.
Like this is why this is a pattern. I've actively looked for this in a lot of long-term friendships, is if you can't tell me no, if you can't stand by what you believe in, if you just constantly tell me what I want to hear, then it's probably not a friendship. It's like a fan type dynamic. And that's terrible. That's terrible for both parties. And it's not good for the self-esteem, because as soon as you meet someone, a stranger, that presents you with an idea that conflicts yours, then you're discombobulated. You feel like, oh, what the heck? Like, but if you're friends with someone like you are, for the longest time, you were like the only friend I had that constantly challenged me, which was I really did appreciate, which you weren't just willing to bend to what I had to say. You always took in your own perspective and what you found was the truth. And we found a focal point and we discussed. And it wasn't necessarily like you were attacking me. That's another, like, there's friends that actually just do attack the other person because they're jealous. It was actually like, it was from the truth within yourself. And
you would say something or make a point or something. And then if I felt that I had another point to discuss about it, whether I agreed with it or I disagreed with it, or I felt like a certain way about it, I would definitely like express that. And I think that's super important with friendships. And I also think that's very, very important in like romantic relationships. Because I think it's easy for a person to become like enamored with a person that they're like courting, romantically involved with, talking to, or whatever. But it's very important for both parties, because I think both, like, either side of a relationship can do this. It's important for both parties to like challenge each other and be like, no, I disagree with that. Actually, I respectfully disagree with you on that topic, or I feel this way about this thing. And I think it builds a much healthier relationship, romantically and platonically.
Yeah. Let's take this to land. Yeah, dude, this is I really enjoy talking to you, man. I feel like I could do this for 3 hours, but you said you have to go.
No, I'm done. I fucking hate it here. I'm not coming back on again.
We're gonna do an 8-hour one next.
An
Could you
all-day
imagine?
one. That'd be long, dude.
We should do an 8-hour one with like multiple people.
Then we just
eh?
like randomly give away like an Apple gift card in the middle, so people
Yeah.
watch for the whole time.
Oh, that'd be great. Could you imagine? And it's only for like a split second.
Yeah,
Okay,
one
in
of
this,
us
we
just
can
randomly says the code like 7 out or like 6 hours into the
In
8.5
this-
hour
yeah.
podcast.
In this 8-hour podcast, there is a code to $100 Apple gift card.
Hundreds a lot. I think you could even do it with just like 20.
I wonder what that would do to the YouTube algorithm. I wonder if no. But then it's actually all been. We've actually already used it.
Yeah, but they would never know that, because like they're like, oh damn, somebody else got to it before me, but we've already redeemed it.
Yeah, we're not like that. We're not like that.
No, we actually are like
we're
that.
long-term.
That's definitely
We're
going to happen
long-term.
in the next podcast that we do.
But yeah, dude, I appreciate you as a friend as always, and thank
Appreciate you
for
having me on. Thank you.
for coming on, man. This means a lot to me.
It
And
means a lot to me. I always
Yeah.
enjoy it. It's a highlight every time you ask me to come on. Thank you.
thank you so much. And yeah, as always, to everyone listening and watching, there is a place for you in this chaotic world. Never lose hope, strengthen your faith, and keep it long term. Adri, Plaizier, everyone. Peace.
That's good, dude.